Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. Today's podcast is unfortunately going to have a bit of a somber tone because we're going to be talking with all of you about what to do when disaster strikes and how real estate agents can lead the way and serve. And this is information that all of you should be using, if for no other reason than to calm the nerves of yourself, your family, your past clients, your centers of influence, in your community. I'm going to start out by sharing with you guys a story where Julie and I originally came up with this concept for the podcast. It was years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago. There were big fires that were happening in this resort area of Big Bear, California. Was it Big Bear?
I think it was Big Bear, yeah.
Yeah. It was
up in the mountains, right?
Yeah, up in the mountains. And it was in California. And fires struck. And there was obviously mass damage, nothing like what they're experiencing now in the LA area, which is, significantly worse. So anyway, we had a coaching client there, and he was not the most dominant agent there. He was just a Midland agent. And he was not able to leave the community in time, and so he stayed. And he was relatively certain his house was going to be spared given the direction of the winds and the flames and the rest of it. So all the roads got blocked and all the, basically people left. And he said he was one of the only, essentially non-firefighter types that were still there. He stayed there, and then as the fire went out, as the firefighters did their job, and all the work that went into that, the community was still blocked, so they were trying to prevent looters and that sort of thing from happening. But he was there. And so what he started doing is he started going around taking pictures of people's houses, doing reports on people's houses. And he could text, he could send pictures. He was able to get word out about what actually was happening in that community after that big fire. And so he, not just with the centers of influence and his past clients, but with all of his neighbors, people he didn't know, everybody you could possibly imagine. He just went around, took pictures, and then he started communicating with them, as many of the ones he could through, social or through, this is back when, Facebook was in its formidable years, but also obviously texting and calling, and then asking if they, when he would get hold of someone to share pictures of their house, to ask if their neighbors would also, essentially asking for more connections so he could basically contact more people. I mean, he had nothing else to do. And so he was up on the mountain for, I think it was a couple weeks, with essentially, nothing to do other than just take pictures and communicate with people. And, it served his purpose, which is being of service to other people, but obviously it was really of service to the community. And as a result of that, what happened was almost instantly, like within the next 12 months, he became, and there was a big part of that community that was burned down, but the rest of it was spared, fortunately. So he became known as somebody who was, beyond a normal real estate agent, even beyond a normal man. And the fact that he was willing to stay there, help other people if he was able to, but certainly help people that had to be evacuated. And as a result, he became the #1 listing agent in that community. And to this day, I believe he still is. This is the type of thing. Now, this is, you guys can listen to this and hear what I just said and be skeptics and say the guy was being opportunistic. And I suppose he was. But really what I learned from that was the fact that he was really trying to be of service to other people, and he's trying to help people. And it was probably a little bit cathartic too on his part, because he was, doing something with his time other than just worrying. Because when something like this happens, and we have lots of coaching clients in the LA area and Calabasas and all these others, certainly in Hollywood Hills and in
Brentwood,
all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we have coaching clients. We have thousands of coaching clients. California has always been one of our biggest markets, and a lot of them have had their entire markets wiped out. And that's unbelievably sad. And the same thing happened in North Carolina.
That's right.
Last year we had coaching clients there that had their entire markets
Still
wiped out.
Rebuilding, yeah.
Right. And so what do you do in a time like that? What do you do to really make it so that your head stays screwed on straight, and then you can help other people do the same thing? And we're going to give you some specific drill down notes, and we're going to tell you what we have suggested others do in similar situations over the last 20 plus years. Because unfortunately, these happen. They happen all the time.
Whether they're tornadoes or hurricanes or fires, right, or floods, this stuff does happen. So that's why we're talking about when disaster strikes, how you can lead and how you can serve. A lot of agents ask us, how can I bring something of value? When you call a past client, when you're trying to have a conversation, what is something of value? So we're going to bring some of that to you today. And we're just sort of using the obvious issue in LA as our excuse to springboard into that. So maybe you don't live in LA, but maybe sometimes you've got a blizzard going on, translate this and adjust accordingly.
So everyone's posting pictures on Instagram of the before and after of these neighborhoods, and it looks just apocalyptic.
Horrible.
For sure. So we'll suggest that you move past those sort of clickbaity pictures and you move into the helping mode of things, which is really where you need to be. And so what we're going to do is now we're going to share with you our notes of specific action items, but there's also a ton of links. Julie and I researched all the links of the different sources that are there to help people, whether it's for just all kinds of relief, all kinds of aid, things for their animals, shelters, things like that. So all these links are available in our notes from today's podcast. And if you want the notes from today's podcast, you have to subscribe to our newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. harrisrealestatedaily.com is our exclusive newsletter that, frankly, all of you should be subscribing to, where we do share with you our notes, but also that day's podcast as well in video format. So just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com, drop in your email, and remember, after you drop in your email, it's double opt-in. So you have to go over to your email and you have to actually then confirm that you want the subscription. So you will want these notes because you want to share them with everyone. So just subscribe to harrisrealestatedaily.com.
And these particular podcast notes could be printed and turned into your checklist for when you inevitably come across some kind of, hopefully you never do, but if you do, a disaster in your area. After all, disasters do test the resilience of communities, but they also offer opportunities to lead, to serve, and to strengthen bonds. So as a real estate professional, most of you listening are, your ability to step up during these times can leave a lasting impact, just as Tim's story about a past coaching client at the top of the podcast. That fosters trust and goodwill that benefits everyone. So make the commitment right now to be the one in your community who knows that everybody can count on you. And again, we've included, if you are in the LA area, the top of the notes are for you some links to how you can contribute. But when disaster strikes in your market, how can you help? Whether they're hurricanes, tornadoes, forest fires, floods, they can devastate communities. But as a professional, you have the unique opportunity to lead and support.
Well, so it doesn't have to be something that's such a calamity, right? It could just be a nasty snowstorm.
Sure, absolutely. It could be something that lasts a day, a week, hopefully not longer than that. But, we've experienced earthquakes and, communications went down. What was the first thing we went to? Well, 5G still works. So I went to the community Facebook page and everybody said, did you feel that? What was that? And then thereafter we were talking about, well, do you have power? What do you do without power? Who's bringing the water truck? All of those things. So we're going to talk about a checklist, and we're going to start with the first one, which is a mindset point as usual.
Well, and the first one is the most important point, really, of all these points, is stay calm and be a leader. And so I want you to think about this. When something happens, like what's happening in California, are you somebody that's waiting around for somebody to basically save your bacon, to tell you what to do? Or are you going out there and trying to help other people? 99.9% of everyone is waiting around to be led, to be told what to do. And I have to tell you, I get it. I understand. It's really scary, especially when you're having to worry about your homestead. But you should consider the ramifications of being a leader, the benefits of being a leader, of being there for other people, like what we just described with our coaching client. And that's really what, you have to adopt a mindset of service and leadership during crises. Don't wait around for any of these, especially government agencies, to ride in on their white horse and save your bacon. You provide that for the people in your community, and you be seen forever as a leader in the community. Your calm, proactive approach will inspire confidence in your community. And you guys want to form an indelible brand? Well, how about the one we're kind of prescribing to all of you now as being someone that truly is there to be of service to the community? You do the right things now, you in California, right? Or maybe even outside of California, if you're California adjacent, you're going to forever be remembered for that one particular activity. You can do all the Facebook and Twittering and Instagramming you want, but this one massive act of kindness, if you do it well, like we're asking you to consider doing, will forever change your destiny as a real estate professional.
That's what people remember. All right, point number 2, put your own oxygen mask on first, as they say. Develop a personal disaster plan. If you can't take care of yourself, or you won't take care of yourself and your family first, you're not going to be a lot of use to everyone else. So prepare a go bag with essentials like water, medications, important documents. Assume, even if you live in the middle of Iowa, assume that one day you're going to need that go bag. Maybe it's a tornado for you if you live in the middle of the country. Maybe it's floods. Adjust accordingly, but everybody should have a go bag for your family, or your dog and your cat.
Well, we didn't know what go bags were until we were living part-time in Laguna Beach.
That's
so
right.
We didn't know what the hell it was either. So if you don't know what a go bag is, it's literally just a bag. A lot of people keep it in their cars. where it's just everything what Julie just said. And so I'll tell you guys another interesting, and again, Californians, you guys have lived through this, but guess what? We were part-time Californians for a while too, almost 10 years. And I remember very clearly, Julie and I were driving in, I think it was from Las Vegas, and we got into California, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves driving through essentially which could only be described as a fiery hellscape. Do you remember that?
I do. Either side of the freeway, we were both burning.
Exactly. Either side of the freeway, up to the blacktop of the road.
And it was the only way in, too.
And it was the only way in, and because it was bumper to bumper, and of course the smoke and everything else, you could we could have easily been burned alive in the car. And a lot of people, I don't know if it would have gotten that bad, but the reality of it is that those situations are real. And the fire roads and whatnot that were originally designed in Southern California to help people evade the fires, they're obviously too small and they're antiquated and they don't work anymore. So in a situation where you're going to have to essentially take care of yourself and loved ones in your car, or maybe somebody else you're trying to help, you need to be prepared. You also need to have a go bag in your house, especially if you're living in one of these fire-prone areas, so you can obviously be over-prepared. Now, I will also suggest that if you go online, you probably can find people that sell these, and what a kick-ass closing gift if you're in, again, a market where this makes sense.
Well, that's right. Like a flashlight, obviously water, medications, your important, copies of all of your documents, stuff for your kids, your pets. Be ready. The reason it's called a go bag is because you grab it to go. You don't say, oh my, I remember one time we were there and it was like, oh, did you see the fire out the window? Yeah. You don't have time to put it together.
This was when we had two condos that were above Montage in Laguna Beach, if you guys know where that is. And there was a hill behind us, and the hill was just completely on fire. I mean, it was just insane. And there weren't any firefighters fighting it. They were down trying to basically water down the adjacent houses and buildings and whatnot.
That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, so Julie and I are from Columbus, Ohio. You got to keep all this in mind. So for us to be living in an environment like that,
our first thought was not, do I have a go bag? But after that happened, it was.
Yeah. Oh, now I know what a go bag is. Clever name.
That's right. Californians are going, yep, we got that. So also establish a safety net with a 6-month reserve if you don't already have one. That's something we talk about in goals with coaching.
Have an emergency plan for your family, including your boarding. And so I'm going to build on that. That is something that a lot of people take for granted, is that they're going to be able to get home in time to get their pets.
Right.
You need to really be thinking through what your plan is going to be. And I'm going to tell you, let's talk about our what we used to do with French Bulldog Rescue. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
For us, we're Frenchie fans. We have a Frenchie. There's a company it's Countrywide French Bulldog Rescue Network, and they are literally in every state in Canada. And it's a huge network. So you could call them and say, hey, I'm in Las Vegas, but I have a Frenchie in Laguna and boarding. Can you help me out? There's a network of people that come together to rescue, to board, to foster. But you need to have that plan, again, ahead of time. You don't want to be trying to Google this stuff when you look out your window and there's a tornado or a fire.
Julie and I used to run the Underground Railroad, basically, for French Bulldogs, for French Bulldog Rescue. They would call us and they would say there's somebody that needs to basically have their, to give up their pet, or they found a French Bulldog, or it's at a kill shelter. And, and the French Bulldog Rescue would ask us to go out and pick the pet up, pick the dog, up, and then take it. Literally, it was a railroad. Then we'd take them to another. Sometimes we'd take them to the person that was actually going to foster, but usually it was taking it to another person that was going to run the next leg on the Underground Dog Railroad.
Until they ended up at the foster.
Until they ended up at the foster, yeah. And we did dozens of those while we were living in that part of the world. But just moral of the story is, have a plan for your pets. And if you have, if you have animals like cows and horses and whatnot, you probably already are thinking like this. But people take for granted the smaller household pets and what they're going to do if there's a fire. Because what the little animals do is they go and hide, and you can't find them. So you're going to want to put tags on them. The animals have when they feel natural disasters looming, they have the survival instinct that, frankly, a lot of humans don't seem to have as strong of. And they will literally go hide themselves to their own, peril. And so you got to be putting tags on the collars, making it so you can find them. Have a plan. Okay.
That's right. So why? Because taking care of yourself, your family, and your pets ensures that you're equipped then to help everyone else. That's why we put these points at the top of the podcast. All right. Point number 3, share critical evacuation information. You should have a list of evacuation routes, emergency shelters, contact numbers for hospitals, Red Cross, local emergency services. Create and distribute hard copies for your past clients, your centers of influence, maybe your neighborhood. Hard copies are vital when phones and the internet go down. Some of my coaching clients have put together a neighborhood directory, and this is the type of thing that they put in there because maybe that goes in your go bag, right?
We've talked about that last year on a podcast. We did, I think, 1 or 2 podcasts on how that's an absolutely killer way to sort of ingrain yourself into the community, is creating your own neighborhood directory. We talk about that excessively, obviously, on Premier Coaching as well. So this is, again, a perfect excuse to create a neighborhood directory. Just the high level is you will go and, your ultimate goal is to have essentially a virtual phone book. No, not even a virtual phone book, but an actual hard copy phone book. Because guess what? When there's natural disasters, the internet goes down. Your internet connection will not work. Sometimes your cell phone connection will work. But a actual 3-ring binder that you can give them that's a neighborhood directory that also has all the same links and all the same emergency phone numbers at the front. If you're the one that actually created that and are distributing that to your community, maybe you have a lender or somebody else help pay for it, you're going to be, again, putting yourself at a different level than anybody. Really visualize that. Imagine knocking on the door, introducing yourself. I'm, Bob, and with eXp Realty, and here's my neighborhood directory of all the, emergency phone numbers, and I want your permission to include your contact information. Sometimes people say no, but I'd say 90% of the time they're going to say yes. And so you're going to include in the neighborhood directory, obviously, the name of the homeowner, their emergency phone number, but you're also going to want to put information about, do they have pets? Sometimes they'll be usually okay with that. You're going to want to mention if they have kids. Sometimes they'll be okay with that, sometimes they won't. Just depends. But the moral of the story is you then are connecting everyone at a higher level, because even in these closely knit together communities where the houses have 0 lot lines, people don't really get to know each other anymore. But that doesn't have to be. They want to know everyone. Humans want to be interconnected. So again, think expansively about what your highest and truest purpose on this planet is, which is to be of service to other people. Point number 4.
Yes, point number 4. Establish a community Facebook page, similar to what we were just talking about, but not a hard copy. You can create a local Facebook group for your neighborhood, or maybe even for your zip code, depending on how many houses you're talking about. And you can say, we survived the fires of LA, to share updates, resources, connect neighbors. You can say, we survived, this is the list that we've compiled, or something like that. Ensure the page is a reliable source, so check all of your links and your phone numbers for real-time information and community support. Again, this is an example of bringing something of value. Of course that's going to be a valuable resource. You're going to be the go-to person for that. And
your Facebook page can be a private Facebook page. You don't have to let everyone in. But I will say, if you do a Facebook page about a community and you tie that also into your directory project, it's a really great way to generate leads. Because when people, buyers and anyone's researching your community, and they do a search for, Oakhurst subdivision or whatever, and they find that Facebook, that's called a Facebook business page, and you're the one that essentially is the point of contact for all the information. That again, it's putting yourself in a place where other agents won't go, because it does require some effort, but it also requires a mindset of service. Everyone else seems to want to hit the easy button and just do a bunch of social media or branding, and you're the one that's actually putting in the work to earn the right to be of service to the folks in your community.
Exactly, well put. So point number 5 is to make that commitment to caring outreach. That means to dedicate the days and weeks after the disaster to actually reaching out. Visit your clients, your neighbors, anybody in need with water. You can load up your trunk with just, bottles of water, food, basic supplies, Band-Aids. A lot of the local outreach places will post a list. This is what we need at this shelter. If phones are working, prioritize phone calls to check on people. And if not, load up your car with essentials and make those personal visits. And I think your example at the top of the podcast is especially salient. A lot of these disasters do hit second and third home markets because they're up in the mountains or they're on the coast or whatever. The people who have their homes, maybe they're living in Canada and they've got a place in Phoenix and something happens. That's extra valuable, because it's not like they can run over and check on the place, but you can go and snap a picture and say, you know what, we had a lot of damage, we had a lot of whatever damage, but your house looks great. Here's a picture of it from this morning. Imagine how you're going to make that person feel.
Going back to put your own mask on first, which is the first point, this just popped into my head. Mm-hmm. You and I live in really what could only be described as 2 technologically, how we say, challenged areas, right?
True. Yes.
Right. So if you look at, for example, Starlink, I'll suggest if you do live in one of these, areas that are highly
susceptible.
To these types of natural disasters, you do seriously consider getting Starlink, not necessarily as your main internet connection, though frankly it works fine, but as a backup internet connection. Now, you will need a source of power, so a generator. Just start thinking realistically about what it's going to take to survive long term, maybe a week or two, if you're in isolation, off the grid in essence, even if you're still in a city. I know this stuff sounds apocalyptic, guys, but the reality of it is there's a lot of stuff that's happening. Unfortunately, it's for all kinds of political reasons, it's all kinds of weather reasons, it's all kinds of reasons that frankly none of us can do anything about. But what we can do about it is obviously be of service to other people. But again, back to point one, put your own mask on first.
That's right. Remember the 7 Ps, right? Proper previous planning prevents pitifully poor performance.
Exactly.
We hope you never need any of this. But if you do, you go to your go bag, you go to your list, you've supplied all of your neighbors in your neighborhood with your directory, you've got a Facebook page set up. Maybe that only happens once, but they're sure glad that you were a leader in your community, and so were you.
But really, at the end of the day, this is really you think we're telling you guys about how to be prepared for, calamity, but the reality is this is a marketing. This is really what it is. We're essentially helping you position yourself using something of service to other people, but it's marketing because you're truly building a brand. You're truly setting yourself apart that a bunch of just passive marketing and advertising will never do. And I think those of you who are really intensely listening and understanding how we're approaching this will appreciate it and take action on it right away. So make sure you get our notes. You have to go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. By the way, we have opened the doors for Premier Coaching again. So if you're not yet in Premier Coaching, we are upgrading the entire system. It's going to be basically Premier Coaching 2.0, and it is going to include real estate. What is it?
What? Oh, gosh. You just stalled me out there because we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, okay. Ethical real estate
professional certification.
I was just quizzing Julie.
I was thinking about Premier when you said that.
I was testing her. Ethicalrealestateprofessional.com. If you guys want to know how powerful of a brand that's going to be, how powerful it's going to be for you, go to Google right now and just put in ethical real estate or ethical real estate professional. The page is already the first page, and it's already at the top. No, that's not a paid search result. That's just organic. And that's essentially going to be where people are going to go and search for background information on agents who have taken the Ethical Real Estate Services Professional Pledge, and you're going to be one of them when you're a Premier Coaching member. We are originally designing that designation so that it was going to be apart from Premier Coaching, but we decided to include it in Premier Coaching. So the way you can take advantage of that now is to join Premier Coaching. We're doing the upgrade on Premier Coaching here probably in about 2 weeks to include the designation. So absolutely positively go to premiercoaching.com. Now, when you do, I want you to immediately take action. New year, time for you to take some action. Go into Premier Coaching first level and click on the real estate treasure map. That's your fill in the blank business and life plan. Start with the lead generation section so you can actually have a lead generation plan, and then do schedule yourself for your daily semi-private coaching call. Do that urgently. The first 14 days of Premier Coaching is free, so you can join now for free. And just go right now to premiercoaching.com. If you'd rather text, and we'll send you back a link, just text the word Premier,
P-R-E-M-I-E-R.
Okay, this is when I see Julie starting to think about her T. Yeah, text the word Premier to 47372. And when you do, we'll text you back a link and you can join Premier Coaching. But do those things urgently. So Julie, next point.
All right, a couple more points and then we'll wrap up. So number 6, provide a list of recommended service providers. Now we mentioned that before, but now we're talking about your trusted service providers. All of you who are transactional, you already have this list. You've got roofers, carpenters, repair specialists, people you recommend for your inspections. This is a great way to refer them business, right? Get that law of reciprocity coming back to you as well. Insurance company contacts, FEMA, Red Cross numbers, emergency pet rescues we talked about. If possible, you might arrange discounts for your clients and neighbors, especially through your favorite roofer, carpenter, painter, etc. So make sure that you're providing that information. All right, number 7, follow up again after the immediate crisis, a week later, 2 weeks later, maybe a month later. After the dust settles, reach out again to ensure that everyone is on the path to recovery. Use the Ford script. That's talking about family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Ask how their family is.
Well, it's even simpler than that, really. You just want to ask what they need. Where are they needing help? What is it?
How are they doing?
Right, and you have this great list of service professionals, but they don't necessarily have it handy or even remember that you gave it to them because maybe when you contacted them, they were under a lot of stress,
maybe
right?
They're living in a hotel. Who knows?
Exactly. So just reach out to folks and remind them that you're here to help them. What help do they need? Don't assume that anybody else is doing it. If we have, as Americans, if we have not realized this or accepted this yet, the truth is that no one's going to help you when you're on crisis. We've seen this continuously. We thought there were entities that were going to help us when all of us, when there are real moments of, calamity again. There's that word the fourth time, but it is
Look
true.
what happened in Nashville, right?
All over the place, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it was before we moved to Puerto Rico, and it was 2012.
2019.
Hurricane
before,
Maria.
Yeah. Maria, that's
Maria
right.
devastated the island. A lot of the island was without electricity for months, like 6 months.
Yeah, it was like 4 to 6 months.
And that's incredible.
Nobody ever would have thought that.
Exactly. And you think that someone's going to be there to save you or your neighbors when there's some disaster strikes? Yes, you know who it'll be? It'll be you and other neighbors who are prepared. Do not expect the government to roll in and save your bacon again.
If it's meant to be, it's up to me, right?
Exactly. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's the best way to go about approaching it. And everyone else is going to see you as a leader, and they're really forever. Just for the very fact that you reached out to them, you just created this great neighborhood directory. You created this great Facebook page. You made a contribution. You've had no other contact with that seller, but they appreciate the fact that you're obviously very much deeply woven into the community. Guess who's going to at least have a shot at the listing? You.
Absolutely, well put. All right, and while you're making that communication, point number 8, ask who else needs help. Always be asking that. Who else do you know who could use my help? Whether it's buying or selling real estate, whether they need somebody to check their foundation or remove a tree, whatever it is, be of service. Focus on genuine care and service rather than sales. Your compassionate actions will be remembered, leading then to referrals and strengthen trust in the long run. Notice we haven't given you any scripts that say, hey, how's it going? Yeah, my house didn't burn down. When do you plan on selling? We're not leading with that. We're leading of being of service and providing value.
Well, so where do you go with this? Let's say it's 6 months from now. The damage is done. People are realizing that, there's going to be so much horribleness that comes as a result of this. Just from
LA business especially.
Yeah, LA, I mean, setting aside the loss of life, which is, hard even to say, but just focusing on 6 months from now, insurance companies, there's going to be so many people that aren't going to have their homes covered. There's going to be so many people that aren't going to have the cash to rebuild their homes. There's going to be so many people that are going to be in situations where they're frankly not going to know the building codes and the restrictions and all.
that.
We're just getting, this is just going to be a continuous problem for years to come. If you're in a community where you've essentially had to deal with this is not something that's obviously temporary. You can see that. Well, start thinking about what's next for you. You could, for example, acknowledge the fact that a lot of the houses are going to have to be leveled. They're going to have to be rebuilt. What are you going to do? How can you be of service there? Who are the local builders that you can start making a list of?
What's the process? Right?
What's the process? Exactly. You need to maybe do some work on understanding how the insurance stuff works. And then start being of service to folks that, your house has been leveled. This is what happens next. This is the process. I'd like to introduce you to a few of my builders and start working relationships that way. There will be, I suspect, it is 100% realistic to assume there's going to be a sea of these houses that aren't going to get rebuilt for years. The houses they'll be leveled because they'll have to be leveled. They're going to literally be, down to lots, and the lots are going to be resold. Who's going to resell those lots? So
who's going to build on those?
Right.
Lots?
I mean, some of those properties, like Julie said, especially in, the mountainous areas, they're not going to, those are second and third homes. Those folks aren't going to want to deal with rebuilding. They're just going to say, well, I'll get what I can get from the insurance company. I'll just sell the lot. Well, okay, that's going to be a great opportunity for you. But again, you're going to have these relationships so that 6 months, 12 months, 24 months down the road, you're going to be able to carve out that opportunity. There are lots of vulturistic, opportunistic people that are going to come in. You'll see this, especially in California. The stories, it's going to be horrible. But you're going to see all kinds of vultures that are going to come in and start trying to, take advantage of people that are desperate. You can be a safeguard against people being taken advantage of because you know what the lots are worth. You now have connections with builders. You know what the cost of reproducing the house they had, or maybe building something that's a little more fire resistant would cost. All this stuff. You guys get it?
Be the resource that they go to and be somebody who's reliable, who says, I know I've heard that too, but here are the facts. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Remember what happened in Laguna with Bluebird Canyon when
Yep.
they had all those mudslides? Well, those houses all got rebuilt. They got reinforced, they had better building codes, and eventually they sold down the line. So the other thing that happens too, and one of my coaching clients, Jeannie Adenolfi in Phoenix, she's recently done 2 transactions with people who came from the Hawaii fire.
Wow.
Because they said, you know what, we want warm weather, but we're not dealing with this anymore. So they came into Phoenix and they were some new clients for her. So be frosty on your voicemail and on your referrals. And you may have some unusual business as a result of this in and around those areas.
This same logic holds even if it's not a natural disaster. For example, after the short sale crisis. There were so many agents that had no clue how to do short sales. And that's really when Julie and I's coaching business really ignited, because we were the first company to take short sale training to the real estate industry. And we had literally, I don't even know how many agents ended up flowing through our short sale program. A ton. And why? Because they were the only ones in their marketplace that were actually calling up the folks that had homes that were essentially equityless and were upside down. They couldn't make the payments anymore. And there are agents to this day that are now still the number one agents in their marketplace because they took action on the short sale information. So yes, maybe they don't need the number for the Red Cross if they're upside down in their home, but it's the mindset of service. Even if there's an incentive for you to be of service, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you have your head screwed on straight of why you're there, contacting that person.
That's right. And I have to say, in these conversations, you probably will get a question that you don't know the answer to. That's something that you add to your list to get the answer to, and your script for that is, that's a great question. I'm going to write it down. I'll get you an answer by this evening. What's the best way I can reach you? You're still being of service. So don't avoid the contact and the outreach because you're afraid of being put on the spot because this is out of your wheelhouse. Just simply say, that's a great question. I'll write it down and get back to you. And then add that to your list of resources when you get the answer.
So your homework from today. Number one, obviously get these notes. Subscribe to our newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. It costs you nothing. Number two, if you've not yet become one of our Premier Coaching clients, do that urgently. Go to premiercoaching.com or just text the word Premier to 47372. Number three, and this is the hard one, is you cannot wall yourself up. Do not go to ground. Do not hide out waiting for somebody else to come in and solve your problem. I'm talking to you guys in California. You've got to go out there and be the problem solver. If that's not who you've been in the past, be that way now. Use these guidelines or these suggestions, our notes from today, to give you at least the breadcrumbs to follow so that, 6 months, 12 months, 10 years from now, you're completely different as a professional and, obviously a real estate agent, but even as a human because of the actions you took now. Don't be fearful. Take action to be of service to other people. That's what moments like this in history create. It creates a window for new people to rise and for fake leaders, frankly, to be discovered. And, then essentially the aristocracy changes. And that's what we're hoping, and I'm sure you agree. In a lot of these communities, it's time for the new leaders in the real estate industry to arise, the ones that are actually here to be of service to other people. So you guys take action on this information. If you love this podcast, which we know you do, please give us a 5-star review over on iTunes. It makes a huge difference. Helps iTunes to know you guys love the podcast and help us get the word out. A 5-star review and a pithy comment would be very much appreciated. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.